I'm Dakota. You can call me Slow Motion. Welcome back to the channel. We are headed to Kendall's to pick up the buggy. And our trans temp so far hasn't got over 150, but we didn't have a whole lot of issues empty before. So we're gonna see what happens once we get the buggy loaded and headed home on the trans temp. Hopefully it's fixed. It did get about 190 degrees home last time I left Kendall's. So we got, you know, the old tires for the buggy and a little bit of weight back there in the bed. We got the old tires for the buggy, a little bit of weight back in the bed, and it's 150, so it's definitely running better. It is only 70 degrees outside. It was 100 degrees last time, so that might be some of that discrepancy, but I'm thinking that fan clutch fixed it. We'll know when we get a load on, but anyway. All right, we made it to Kendall's. We got the buggy loaded. The tabs that I bought to use for a mount, they weren't right. To get them to work, we had to chop them up a bunch. It's not going to work the way we did it. Long story short, we need a pipe bender. We don't have one. He's got it working the best he could with what he had. We're probably going to end up chopping it off, getting a pipe bender so we can build what we want, because that just doesn't work. The bottom's fine, but we got a lot more weight than we normally do because we normally don't have both sets of tires. So this is probably the heaviest setup that the truck's ever really pulled. We were 150 degrees on the way here with those tires in the bed of the truck. On the way home last time, the trans hit 200 degrees. It hit 150 on the way down here, but it was also like 70 degree morning. So we got a heck of a load on it. We got a 3.5–4 hour trip home. All right, well, we went about 30–35 miles down the road. The trans temp is sitting about 190. We've done a lot of stop and go. 190, 200 is kind of normal. We were creeping up about 240 to 250 on the way down before we changed out the fan clutch. We got a fresh trans filter. We got fresh trans fluid. We're gonna see what happens when we get her out on the interstate and get her up to speed and let her eat for, you know, an hour and a half on end. So hopefully it's fixed, and hopefully we don't have any issues, and we can check that off the list and go on to the next thing. All right, update for you. We just merged onto the interstate, and it's sitting just a hair over 200. So update, it's at 200 degrees. It's been sitting there for about 10 minutes. I think we've been on the road a little over an hour now, and it's just sitting at 200 degrees. I got the cruise set about 66, 67 mile an hour. That puts us about 3,000 RPM or just shy of it. It's a gas rig. I just don't see the need in pushing it much past that, but that's how I always tow. It's been staying at 200 degrees. I'm happy with that. We're not creeping up. We're maintaining. I think I looked in the owner's manual. I think it said 180 to 225 degrees is operating temp. So if it stays right at 200 degrees on an 86 degree day, I'd say we're doing pretty good. Yeah. So if your transmission's overheating, you got a 3/4 ton, you got a tranny cooler that runs through the radiator and then to an external cooler. That's stock. That's how this one comes. It actually went down a little bit. It's just under 200 now. If your tranny's overheating but your engine isn't, it might be your fan clutch, because basically it's a water to water kind of setup, or you could say oil to, you know, tranny fluid, or coolant to tranny fluid, but you know, basically it's on the cold side of the radiator. But if the radiator's doing everything it can to keep the engine cool, the cool side of the radiator is not going to be cold enough to do a whole heck of a lot of work. Plus the fan, you know, the fan clutch and the fan, it's pulling air through that external cooler too. But we really didn't have much of any issue with the engine overheating, but the transmission was, and turns out it was our fan clutch. That fluid, the tranny fluid, was dirty, nasty. I'm sure that didn't help. And the filter didn't look to be brand new, so that probably didn't help. So I'd say it's probably just good all the way around. Fresh fluid, good fan clutch, and fresh trans filter. I got the severe duty clutch. I can tell you when that thing kicks on, you can hear it. To some it might be annoying, but we're putting this truck right at max, you know, or maybe a smidge over, you know, when we got her loaded down. But so, you know, severe duty made sense to me because this poor thing's doing about as much work as it can. So I'll update you 1 or 2 more times on this trip. We still got like 2.5 hours left to go. But I think, cross our fingers, I think our transmission overheating issue is fixed, so we can move on to the next thing. All right. We've been staying about 190 to 200 degrees. We're 30 minutes from the house. I'm going to say the transmission overheating issue is fixed. Yeah, so we're going to chalk that up as a win. And on to the next thing. I'm not 100% what we're doing next. There's some things I still want to button up on the buggy. Unfortunately, it might get put on the back burner for the time being. I'm not 100%. We'll do our budget here this weekend when we get paid, and we'll see what to do next. I kind of really want to get power out to our barn. The barn is what I use as a shop, and having lights where I can work, you know, after dark, having power where I can run a welder at the, you know, at my own shop. I'm not trying to, you know, outsource every little thing I do, but honestly, for like the cordless tools, having power, the lights, you know, having lights so I don't have to, like, there's been several mornings. I drive a truck for a living. I get up usually pretty early so I can, you know, get quite a bit done before, you know, your morning traffic starts. So on my days off, I do the same thing a lot, and it'd be nice just to, you know, instead of waiting 2-3 hours for daylight, I could just bounce out to the shop in the morning. So I think, because, you know, we're doing this whole off-road thing debt-free now. We're not acquiring debt to do this. So I think saving up to get power out to the barn is our next solution. It had power at one point. We got a new house put out there like 7 years ago, and when we had a new meter and whatnot. Everything got disconnected. The new meter's in a different location than the old, but it never had adequate power. It was barely enough to run the lights, the wire. We're gonna run a full service wire out there. That's why I haven't done it so far. I think last time I priced it was going to be about $1,200 just for the materials to do the project, but I think that's where we're going next. Anyway, I'm Dakota. You can call me Slow Motion. Thanks for watching.